Two young and very much in love teens who met at a very young age decided to start dating in 2004. In the beginning, they looked like they were the perfect couple, with most of the student body being very jealous of them. But as we all know, looks can be deceiving, and everything seemed perfect until it wasn't. And once Johanna decided that enough was enough, things turned absolutely tragic. This is a typical story about how a system failed another beautiful teen girl. I will give you a trigger warning in advance that this story does touch on DV quite a bit, so please consider that before moving forward. This is the heartbreaking story of Johanna Orozco. Hi guys, welcome or welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. It's so greatly appreciated. It truly, truly is. Before we get started, let me give you my usual disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only. Please do not take what I say as fact. Please always do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Next, if you have not liked, subscribed, or commented yet, please consider doing so because it really helps me out and I really, really appreciate it. So, Johanna Orozco and Juan Ruiz met when they were in the second grade at Walton Elementary School in Cleveland, Ohio, when they were just 8 years old. The two stayed friends all those years, and in the summer of 2004, the end of their freshman year in high school, the two decided to start dating. The whole thing came about when Johanna and her girlfriend went to meet the girlfriend's new boyfriend. So Johanna's girlfriend had a new boyfriend. She kept telling her about him, and she said, come with me to his house to hang out so you can meet him. So she says, okay. So the two go over there, and it just so happens that the friend's new boyfriend was Juan's stepbrother. So the two were 15 years old at the time, and before Johanna left the house, Juan asked her for her number, to which she refused, but she would end up taking his number instead. After about a month goes by, she decides to give him a call. During that first phone call, the two would speak for 4 hours and things kind of just blossomed from there. One interesting fact about both of them was that they both came from abusive households. Juan's father would him, his mother, and his sister prior to mom divorcing him. And Johanna's father would mom, her, and her little brother prior to mom divorcing him. Johanna's mom would ultimately end up giving her father another chance, and for 2 years, Johanna had a real family. Her father stopped drinking and never put his hands on mom or the kids ever again. Both of her parents would end up passing away, and Johanna and her brother would end up going to live with grandma. Okay, so here's the story, and it's awful. It's awful. And then when you find out what happens to her later on in life, oh my God, I don't know how okay. Mom had kidney disease, and during dialysis, she suffered a stroke. Doctors were able to bring mom back, but she was brain dead and she remained in a coma for a month. Dad ultimately decided after a month to pull the plug because doctors told him that she's just gonna like, this is no way of life. She's not coming back. Dad pulls the plug. 4 days later, mom passes away. 11 days after that, Dad is in a car accident and he dies instantly. Oh my God. So that's why Johanna and her brother go to live with grandma. Okay. In the beginning of her relationship with Juan, she says that Juan was caring, trusting, and showered her with gifts. For their first date, the two went to the movies together, and from there, he would just keep taking her out on dates. He took her to the park to hang out. He took her to the movies. He took her to dinner. He hung out with her friends. He got to know her family. She got to know his. She describes him as absolutely amazing in the beginning of their relationship. February 27th, the two decide to make things official. As time went on, things began to change. After about 4 or 5 months into the relationship, Juan became very jealous. He became obsessive, possessive, and controlling. He also became verbally abusive. He called her fat, ugly, stupid, and worthless, just to name a few. He isolated her from her friends. She was no longer allowed to have friends, especially the male ones. If she was out with her family or the 3 girlfriends that she was allowed to have, he would call her phone every 3 to 5 minutes. At first, Johanna thought this was very cute. She thought this meant that he loved her. That's not what this means. He told her what she could wear, and at first she thought this meant that he loved her. Again, this didn't mean that he loved her. As time went on, things got progressively worse, and one day Juan put his hands on her. The first time this happened, she broke up with him, told him to get out of her house and to forget about her. Juan did what most do. He cried, he told her he was sorry, that it would never happen again, that he loved her, and he begged for her to give him another chance. Then Johanna did what most victims do, and she took him back. Things were good for about a month or so, and then the cycle repeated, as it often does. As time went on, things got progressively worse, as they often do. A slap, a push, pressing hard on her side in public as a warning. Just wait until we are alone. Then it moved to punching, kicking, hair pulling, and slapping repeatedly. When asked why nobody ever noticed a bruise, it was because they were placed very strategically in places that were not visible without clothing. And either out of fear, love, or both, Johanna never confided in anybody about what was going on. She would hide the bruises under pants and long sleeves, as most do. If she was ever questioned about a bruise, she would just blame it on an argument or a fight with her brother. And this is also not, I have a boy and a girl. So a boy and a girl, even 2 sisters, 2 brothers, whatever it is, siblings in general, having fist fights or having fights, it's not uncommon. Let's be real. So she would always just blame bruises on her brother. This cycle would continue for 2 whole years. Finally, Johanna had had enough, and she decided that she was done with this relationship for good. She didn't care if Juan cried, if he threatened to unalive himself, if he hit her, if he beat her, if he threatened her. Nothing mattered. She was done. When we are done, we are done. 1 week later, on Sunday, February 16th, 2007, while Johanna was sleeping, she got a knock on her window. She goes to her window to see who it is, and it's Juan at her window begging Johanna to let him in. When she said no and she closed the window, he began to bang harder on the window, fearing that her brother, who was in the home, would wake up. And with Juan's banging getting progressively louder, she finally agrees to let him inside the home. Her plan at the time was to let him in, hear what he had to say, and to get him out before anybody knew what was going on. The first thing he did after she let him in was check the closets and check under the bed to make sure that nobody was in the room, like she wasn't hiding anybody. Okay. After he knew that the room was clear, he slapped her, threw her on the bed, and told her to shut up. Then he sits down next to her on the bed, and he tells her how much he loves her, and he tells her how much he wants to be with her. Yeah, it's all like, it's so fucked up. It's so fucked up. When she didn't tell him what he wanted to hear, and told him that she was very sorry, but that she was not in love with him anymore, and that she didn't want to be with him anymore, and that this was done. Like, when I said that this was done for the last time, I truly meant it. This is done. He snapped. He stood up, he grabbed his coat, and he pulled out 2 kitchen knives. He placed one to her stomach and one to her throat, and Johanna started begging him to stop. He told her that if she didn't get back together with him, that he was going to her and then himself. Yeah. So, fearing for her life, Johanna told him exactly what he wanted to hear and said, fine, we're back together. Okay, so Juan puts the knives down. Okay, he lays down on her bed and he starts talking to her like nothing ever happened. Like he starts telling her about his day as if this whole thing didn't just take place. Like it's weird. When he goes in for a kiss, Johanna pushes him away and he gets mad. He keeps going in for a kiss. She keeps pushing him away and he keeps getting progressively angrier and angrier until he decides to R-word her right then and there in her room. After he was done, he stood up, he got dressed, he told her that he would her and anybody that she told, burn her house down, and then he left. Just left her house like nothing. It's crazy. This whole story is just one big absolute mindfuck. I'm not kidding you. The next day in school, 2 of Johanna's girlfriends ask what's going on with her. She finally decides to confide in them, and they convince her that she needs to tell somebody, telling her that if she doesn't speak up, that this is never going to stop. So Johanna finally agrees. She tells a teacher, who tells a principal, who calls the police, and Juan is arrested. Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention that Juan didn't originally go to her high school. He went to a different high school, and then once they started dating, he transferred to her high school so he can keep an eye on her. He would walk her to and from school every day, show up to her classes, make her switch her schedule around so that they would have at least 2 classes together. And he even joined the drama club, which she was a part of, so that he could watch her during practices. Yeah. It's crazy. Okay. After a week goes by, Juan is released from the detention center on house arrest and work release due to overcrowding. This isn't a tale as old as time, I'm telling you. He was wearing an ankle monitor, but in this case, as in most, this didn't mean shit to him. Even worse than that, they never told Johanna that he was released from the detention center. She happened to find out because she went down to the police station to fill out a report, and she asked the officer, what is the update on Juan's case? And that's when they told her, oh, by the way, okay, I always thought that the victim and the family they're supposed to be the first ones to find out that a perpetrator is released. But this is not the first time that we've heard about police not notifying a victim. Unfortunately. Juan would stalk and harass Johanna the entire time. He would call her, he would follow her, he even slashed her tires one day. When she tried to get a protection order against him, they told her no because he was under the age of 18. This went on for 2 whole weeks. Here we go. Buckle up. March 5th, 2007. Johanna was getting ready to leave for an evening cosmetology class. She got dressed, she kissed Grandma goodbye, and she headed out the door towards her car. She got into the car, she leaned over to grab her keys, and when she did, she saw something in her left peripheral vision. She put the keys in the ignition, and that's when she saw Juan, dressed all in black, emerge from the back of the driveway. She rushed to start her car, but she didn't have enough time. He pulled out a shotgun. and Johanna's whole body just froze. She said that she locked eyes with him and she was completely frozen out of fear. When she finally came to, she went to start the car. He pointed it at her and he shot her right in her face. Then he turned around and left. The next thing she remembers is her grandmother screaming. And she had really long hair at the time, so her hair was in front of her face. And grandma was like pushing the hair out of her face. And when her grandmother saw what happened to her, she screamed. That's when a neighbor came out to help. She put Johanna in the car and she sped to the hospital with her blowing bright lights, blowing stop signs the whole entire time. In one interview, Johanna says that on the way to the hospital, she remembers saying to God, "If I did anything wrong, please forgive me." When she finally arrived at the hospital, a nurse came into the room and told her that everything was going to be okay and that they were going to put her to sleep. To which she told the nurse, "I don't want to die." She woke up a few days later in a room surrounded by her family, her surgeon, and the damage that was done to her face.
Johanna's injuries when she was first, the entry wound was in her cheekbone, her maxilla, kind of next to her nose on the right side. The real effect of the blast was on her jaw and her chin. So we knew a big portion of her mandible or her jaw was missing. Another large portion of it was basically beat into many pieces, but Dr. Trang managed to put those back together and salvage some of it to the point where we weren't sure whether or not it was going to live and work, but it certainly we had hope, because saving as much of her own stuff is always ideal. So I knew her jaw was going to be missing. I knew her chin was going to be missing, and I had an idea that a lot of her lower lip was going to be missing as well. It's the lip that really, to me, it was a very important thing to know whether I was going to have something to work with or not, because that's the thing that I cannot make well. Nobody can make those.
Half of her lower face was missing. Her surgeon comes up with this idea to make her a new jaw. He took bone out of her leg to rebuild her jaw.
Bone, which was really destroyed in the initial entry wound blast, was completely mobile. And normally, you'd go in there and you'd put plates on it just like you do with a facial fracture, kind of like what they did with a jaw. But in this case, they put wires on her teeth to stabilize what she had, and then they suspended her cheekbone, her maxilla, the part that holds the upper teeth, to the higher cheekbone, the zygomatic arch, with a wire. So then we had to start working on getting bone to rebuild the structure of the jaw that was missing. Most people will agree that the best place is from the fibula. It doesn't bear any weight in your leg. Your tibia, your shin bone, basically holds all of it. And as long as you keep enough to keep the joints in the knee and the ankle stable, you can take all that bone out without causing any problems in terms of walking later on. We take the bone, we cut it so it's wedged on one side. We decide how big of wedges to make and how much of a curve to decide exactly how much of the fibula to take in each little segment. So I'll take 3 little cuts and they fit together kind of like pieces in a puzzle. So at this point it becomes a long process.
The surgery would take place 1 month later. 2 weeks after surgery, she was able to talk. She required a lot of speech therapy and a lot of physical therapy, and she was unable to eat for an entire year. She was on a feeding tube for 6 months and then was restricted to soft foods for the next 6 months. Johanna would spend 2 months in the hospital. After that, she was released, which she was pretty much bound to home. So she went from, in a sense, one prison to another, because she was unable to walk around the school because she had to take bone from her leg and put it in her face. So she couldn't walk. So she had to finish out her senior year being homeschooled. But on a brighter note, she was able to attend prom, and she was even crowned prom queen, which she very much deserved. Nobody deserved it more than her that year. She was also able to graduate with all of her friends, which was also huge, and I'm super, super happy for her about that. As for Juan, Johanna was forced to face him in court. She says that he cried like a baby, but that she believes the tears were not because he was sorry for what he did to her, but they were because he felt sorry for himself. And let's be honest, 9 times out of 10, this is absolutely the case. In a victim's impact statement, she told him she forgives him, she prays for him, but whatever he has coming, he deserves. And she's 100% correct. Juan was sentenced to 27 years in prison with no possibility of parole. But, and however, okay, this is where I have a problem. He will be 44 years old when he's released from prison, which, as far as I'm concerned, isn't enough time. It just isn't. He will have more than enough life ahead of him at that point. As for Johanna, she works for a DV center and travels to high schools all around, educating teens about dating. She was also able to pass 2 laws in Ohio, which is huge. And this girl is a queen, I'm telling you. The first law states that you can get a restraining order on kids ages 13 to 18 and no parent needs to be present. Something that she was unable to get on Juan at the time. She also passed a law that all schools in Ohio grades 7 to 12 must educate students on dating violence in health class. It's also huge. This girl, what can I say about her? She went through an awful situation in her youth, and then she went through an even worse situation. Well, I don't even know if it's even worse. I guess maybe they're probably equal. She lost both her parents, and then she had to live through DV from her father. Then she finally gets the family that she wanted for 2 whole years. Then mom dies. Then 11 days later, dad dies. And she has to go move and live with grandma. Then she falls in love with her friend from when they were kids. She falls in love with this amazing guy who ends up taking off half her face. Like, she came out of this stronger than most of us probably ever could. We should let this be a lesson to all of us that when the world says give up, hope whispers, try it one more time. Fast forward to today, Johanna is happily married and she's very much in love.
He is just so good to me, and I am blessed to have him in my life. So getting married to him is just going to be just the cherry on top of everything that I've already experienced in my whole life. He was injured. He fell off like about 50 feet off of a Black Hawk and survived. He was very, very close to dying, and thankfully there was this doctor, Dr. Horvath, that saved his life and did a lot for him. It was a miracle. We're both survivors. We're together. We're in love. We understand each other in many different ways that others do not understand. And he loves me for me. I love him for him. And this relationship is going to last a very long time.
Before we end this, I do want to give you guys a few tips that I learned through this research that I hope that you will share with teens in your lives. Stay away from boys who put you down, talk negatively about women, drink and or use drugs. Don't get involved with a boy who doesn't ask your opinion or doesn't respect your decision. Set sexual limits and communicate them clearly. Most teenage boys say, I'll go as far as the girl will let me. Stay sober in social situations. But with that, if you guys are still here, thank you. I love you and I appreciate you so very much. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you haven't yet and you feel so inclined to, because it really helps me out and I really appreciate it. And until next time, stay safe out there.